From American Fort, Utah, number 20, Aidan Mahaney.
Wowee, that was such a big turnaround for the Rainbow Warriors men's basketball team as they took on UC Santa Barbara for the final time for the proverbial future. And fortunately, the drought is over. As you can see by this final score here, UH beats Santa Barbara 78-75 in overtime at the Stan Sheriff Center. Oh, man, I am so excited for them. And I'll tell you, like I said earlier, that was a huge turnaround from the lethargic performance that they put against Cal Poly. Now, before I get to this, I want to address something. If you saw my recap of UH versus Cal Poly, I did film that before tip-off, but I didn't have time to edit because I had the Dallas Supercross, which I've yet to do my recap for, and I will do one probably on Friday. But in the meantime, I just want to address that. That video was filmed well before tip-off against UC Santa Barbara, and I could not wait to get to this video, let me tell you. But in the meantime, guys, remember, subscribe if you think that I'm worth listening to. I'm hopeful to get at least one of my games up this week. So I hope to gain some more fans, and I appreciate all of you who do watch my videos and, of course, leave some relevant comments. But in the meantime, let's get into this. Okay, this is my banner. UH beats UC Santa Barbara in overtime. First win over UC Santa Barbara since 2022. Good start was vital. Isaiah Kerr and Harry Rouhliadeff were the heroes. And I'll tell you this, for UH men's basketball to finally break what seemed like probably 5 years since we last beat them, or maybe even 10 years for that matter, when the reality is it was 4 years that UH last beat UC Santa Barbara in February of 2022. And that was when UH fell behind early, 23-4, and then came roaring back to beat them in regulation. The last 8 meetings, at least half of them slipped through their fingers because of their inability to execute and maybe have a little luck come their way. Because I look back to both games last year, they could have won those games because they had their pace. Make no mistake. And unfortunately, they got a bad bounce off a buzzer beater from Gitas Nemiksha. And on the road, Cody Williams had turned the ball over on the final possession. And that was it. UH didn't win those 2 games. But also, showing that you got the pace and beating a certain team are 2 entirely different things. UH had Santa Barbara's number, make no mistake, but getting a win over them seemed to repeatedly elude them. But fortunately, UH was able to right that ship because of a good start. They needed that, especially after what happened against Cal Poly. Come on, Fish. Come on, Isaiah. Yes! And thankfully, they had at least 1 or 2 guys, specifically the 2 guys on my banner, Isaiah Kerr and Harry Rouhliadeff, who were willing to be that guy. I said before in my Cal Poly recap that how lethargic that was. It seemed like hesitancy really reigned supreme, and whoever wanted to lead the team didn't raise their hands. Okay? This time around, Isaiah Kerr and Harry Rouhliadeff were those two guys who raised their hands when it really counted, especially when Isaac Johnson was not having the Isaac Johnson kind of night that UH fans have gotten used to seeing. Now, I don't think that Isaac played terribly. He still had a decent amount of points, but it seemed to me like getting bodied up by Evans Capruto and Hosanna Katenge had kind of wore him out. And on one side of the coin, he may have also been fighting a bit of a cold because, from my view, it did look like he was kind of run down or sick with a cold. But obviously, I'm in the stands. I don't know. To me, that really proved that Isaac may not have had the kind of flair that we would normally see from him, but he still found a way to be noticeable in other areas. And that was big, especially after what happened in the road matchup where UH fell behind early and played catch-up the entire way. And that was all because they got out to a really lousy start. And if you're the University of Hawaii, to get this win after 8 straight losses is a huge load off their toad, let me tell you. Because it got to the point where every time you go up against a team like UC Santa Barbara and all you've done against them is lose, what does that do for your confidence? It doesn't do much. And especially after 8 losses in a row, what's 9? May have been the mindset, or maybe not the mindset, but may have been one of the mindsets if you're looking at it this way. Because obviously, this is the kind of little bit of a reverse psychology here, because UH has done really well against Cal Poly as of late, losing only twice to them in the last few years. But this past Thursday night was only the 3rd time that they lost to Cal Poly, but it was the first time that happened in 11 years that it happened on home court. And for the first time in 8 meetings, we beat UC Santa Barbara. And the guy who really came up big in the first half was Isaac Finlinson. He scored all 9 of his points. Dre Bullock led everybody on the UH roster with 21.
Here it goes! Here it goes!
But the guy who really deserves just as much credit, actually 2 guys, one of them is on this banner, and that's Isaiah Kerr. He had 17, but it seemed like once the second half came around, he picked up a lot of Isaac Johnson's slack defensively, and he definitely picked up some of the offensive kind of stuff that UH had to go through with Hunter Erickson having a slight amount of trouble as well. But still, Hunter did okay. I do think he handled the pressure really well. But when someone is not having a good night, like in this case, Isaac Johnson, you got to be that next man up, as Ganat says in the pressers. But still, I would definitely give this game an A because they needed a good start. That was a check. They had to prove they got Santa Barbara's pace. That's a check. The second half start was kind of so-so, but it was not terrible because Santa Barbara got out to score the first 6 points of the second half, but UH was able to find a way to put the momentum in their corner and come roaring back to take the lead. And when you see the lead against a team that has really owned you for 8 consecutive meetings and even got away with some at times, that's a big confidence booster to know that in your mind, you can beat these guys. Because the last few years, UH has had a scoring drought that has really plagued them, especially when it matters the most. I did not see that at all from this team one bit. I mean, did they have any scoring droughts? I'm sure that they did, but did it hurt them? But did it overly hurt them as far as their chance for the win was concerned? No, because they played hard and they were able to force a lot of Santa Barbara turnovers. Now, turnovers, UH did really, really well. 9 turnovers compared to Santa Barbara's 12. And Santa Barbara is a team that probably averages single-digit turnovers. In fact, I would be surprised if they have single-digit turnovers in every game so far up until Saturday night. Now, does that seem likely? Probably not, but there's probably at least 5 or 6 games where they exceeded 10 turnovers, but 12 turnovers in that game was probably a lot more than Santa Barbara was expecting to get. And when someone like Harry Rouhliadeff is on his game, he had 10 points only, but still, he came through in the clutch with a couple of vital tip-ins that helped the team keep in contention. And the last one was with about 5 seconds to go was the one that really mattered the most after Hunter Erickson missed the layup and Rouhliadeff tipped it in to tie the score at 68. Now, Aidan Mahaney, give him credit for UC Santa Barbara because he was a real pain in the butt when UH went to take on Santa Barbara at the Thunderdome. He led the scoring there, but that wasn't the case in the home matchup for UH anyway.
Yeah.
But as far as UH is concerned, like I was talking about earlier, Isaiah Kerr, wow, I couldn't have been so much happier for that kid because up until now, I had really yet to see a breakout game for Kerr because up until Saturday night, his numbers had not been really noticeable. Credit to Isaiah because with Isaac Johnson not having the great night, Isaiah Kerr had the big second half. The first half was all about Isaac Finlinson. Isaiah Kerr was that man for UH in the second half. But a guy who deserves some credit as well, probably an equal amount of credit as Isaiah Kerr, was Yassine Toomey. And even though Toomey had just 1 point that night and a rebound, he did a lot of things out there that I thought didn't show up on the stat sheet. For Yassine to kind of take some confidence from that is a good thing, especially against a team like UC Davis, who UH faces next on the road. Because when Davis came here in Honolulu back in December, Toomey had a great game and scored 13. Did he lead the team? No. Is he ever going to lead this team? I kind of doubt it. But if he does, great. I'd be happy to eat my words then. But still, for Toomey to come off the bench, and even though it was only 1 point and 1 rebound this time around, the way that Toomey played, I really liked how he got in it, both defensively and offensively, because with Isaac Johnson not having the best of nights, Toomey also proved that he had the body to, or the ability in his body to keep Evans Caputo and Hosanna Kitenge in check. And that's what Isaac Johnson was supposedly having a hard time with. Now, was he under the weather then, Isaac? I mean, he may have been, but I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that that was the case. In fact, it's probably not, but you never know. Just judging from what I could see and what my dad could see. But still, that was a great game for UH. And outside of assists, as you're seeing by these stats coming up, UH outscored UC Santa Barbara in just about every other category. Now, rebounds are pretty even, but UH got the nod at 37. But fortunately, the one thing that really told the story was the fact that they had the want to win that game. Could they have won it in regulation? I don't know. I kind of doubt it because Santa Barbara is a really tough team. And if they've been having some hot and cold games, and I brought this up in my last recap of the road matchup because I'll tell you this, because what I said then was that if you're on the University of Hawaii staff and you're hearing that Santa Barbara has had some lethargic games or some hot and cold games, you would have to think that somebody's giving you bad information because Santa Barbara is still beating you. But a lot of the times in basketball, when it comes to two teams facing each other, if the one opponent has you by the ropes, sometimes it stays that way, and at times the shoe will be on the other foot. Was the shoe on the other foot then? No. Santa Barbara was competitive, but we had that extra want to win the game. And I couldn't be any more happier for this team. And I'll tell you this, they also called it Anthony Carter or AC Carter night, and they honored him at halftime. And he was the guy who got me into going to the UH men's basketball games, along with Alika Smith back in the day. Because Anthony Carter, you might know him from the NBA, he was part of the UH men's basketball team from about 96 to 98, and then he went for the NBA. And he's the only guy from Hawaii to make it into the NBA. And it was good to see an old face back, along with other guys like Bob Nash of the Fabulous Five, Eric Ambrosic, who was also on the 97 team, the first team that I went to, along with Anthony Carter, and was also teammates at Saddleback College, I believe. But still, to see a special face like that, that was probably what got this game mighty electric, let me tell you, in the Stan Sheriff Center. Now, before I wrap up this video, I want to go back to Isaiah Kerr, and as you can see by this possession here, when I was saying that he had to take it inside after Dre Bullock got that offensive rebound, Isaiah Kerr must have heard me because I was screaming that he had to take it inside, and he did. And I couldn't have been happier that you got not one, not two, but at least three guys out there that night who were willing to take matters into their own hands. And a lot of the time when it came to UH, it seemed like all they were doing was playing catch around the rim or around the perimeter, and they were kind of biding their time too much, and then they would get late into the shot clock and they'll be forced to put up a Hail Mary. That was certainly far from the case because guys like Isaiah Kerr, Hunter Erickson, and Isaac Finlinson were able to take the ball inside and play with zero conscience that they were going to clean out a guy in a Santa Barbara uniform.
Come on, Hunter. Take it up. Take it up. Yes!
That's how you win games, when you're willing to take matters into your own hands. And that's also how you can erase those demons and prove in your mind that, hey, I could beat these guys, or we could beat these guys. Okay? And that's where I'll leave it. So anyway, guys, that's all for today. Go Bows. Congrats. I am so pleased that you were able to end this skid over UC Santa Barbara before you change conferences. And Davis will also require a good start. And I do think that UH should beat UC Davis at their place. It won't be easy. We've had their pace, and we got close to beating them last year. But unfortunately, that was probably the start of the season turning into a complete train wreck because Marcus Green missed a layup and Tanner Christensen missed a putback at the buzzer, and Davis escaped with the win. Now, it's not going to be easy this time, but I do think that UH will have the upper hand here against UC Davis, especially if the home matchup was any indication. And they have to take some momentum. And if they can beat Santa Barbara, whether it's on the road or at home, they can beat UC Davis at their place if they just put their heads down and play hard. Okay? So thanks, guys. Subscribe. Go Bows. I'll see you all again.